Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent experiences in business.
Learn what their cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again.
Welcome, Anne Legg, to the podcast series. I am just ecstatic that you are joining us and you are getting an opportunity to interact with another one of my favorite people in the world, Ben-Jamin Toy. So, Anne, so where are you broadcasting from for yourself? Because you're like this worldly travel. I know you've been like all over the world. Like, where are you today?
Yeah, this year has been spectacular. I've managed to do both India, the UK, and a couple parts in between. But today, everybody, I am in this lovely home. I am out of San Diego, California. This is my home education studio, so you can see lots of cool artifacts. And I am delighted to be home in San Diego.
Well, good. We're happy that you're home there and that you'll call the Cohesive Leader Program home also. You and I have a rich history of doing things together and collaborating. So this gives us an opportunity to welcome you. But we like to do something in the very beginning, which we call connections before content. So just a little opportunity to have people learn a little bit more about you, something that's kind of like not on your resume, something that nobody else would know, or maybe they would know, but you haven't shared it before. So I know that you are a data geek. You love data. As a matter of fact, you have a book, which you're welcome to talk about that. And also you love AI and technology. So what I would like to ask you is, what has been your most recent and or favorite AI connection contact that's happened here in the last few weeks, month, whatever?
Gosh, that is such a good one. I think when I think about kind of connections, I think about one of the things that many people sort of know, but don't know. And that's where kind of the book comes in. And that is, I'm a real avid outdoors person. I love to be outdoors, hiking, biking, swimming, jumping, fishing, whichever, right? One of the neat things about the book was that it uses the metaphor of climbing a really large mountain. In fact, our largest freestanding mountain on our planet, which is Mount Kilimanjaro at 19,341 feet. And it talks about doing that and compares that all the way back down to, what does it feel like grabbing data at your organization and trying to climb that mountain and do it? Now, let's bring in the point of mountain climbing and AI. Okay, I actually can't because I haven't actually used AI for mountain climbing yet. But what I have done it for is also something that was very difficult. And can I cite two sort of examples, if that's okay? Example number one was, I don't know about everybody else out there, but I am not an outdoor architectural genius / like, I don't look at my backyard and be like, ooh, the gazebo should go there. I am So I have this beautiful, beautiful back patio area that I have been struggling for at least years on what to do with it. So I literally took photos of it, stuck it in my favorite ChatGPT tool and said, hey, Chat, I'd like to do such and such with my back patio. What do you recommend? Not only did it send pictures back, but it told me where to get it, what venue, and then it even gave me pricing budget as well as how long I could get it done. Winning at life. Okay. I will have to send you pictures of my back patio because it is so gorgeous, because it's not just one zones, it's actually 4. I'm okay with that. The second one was, well, okay, I don't know about you too, but every year I really want to make a very lovely corporate video and explain all the wonderful things that I was able to do this year and all the people that I got to hang out with. That's huge. So I made a beautiful list of all the things that I'd been kind of broken into categories, sent it over to my friend Chat. Yes, I know I'm personifying technology, but anyways. And I said, hey, what do you see, right? Like, I'd love to create this message. So not only did it create a cool message, then I said, that's awesome. Give me the video script. I need it to be about 20 seconds. Oh my gosh. Thank you, buddy. Plus, it also gave me not only fade in and fade out times, but it also gave me visual and musical, so visual and audio recommendations. So that's actually living on LinkedIn right now. So you can actually see my audio grading that I delivered, but my friend Chat helped me build out, which would have taken me literally hours to do. That only took about 10 minutes just to get that script. And then obviously the recording of it.
That is really, really awesome. I love that.
I love that as an example of how the technology is meant to be a tool that saves us time to go do the other things. Like there was studies back in the 50s or 60s that said, okay, all this technology is meant to give us all this extra time. And then they actually analyzed and like, well, where did it go? They just ended up doing more stuff. So it's like, okay, now we have this. Let's actually use it for what it was intended to give our life back, right? For mine, I really loved using the technology to make the work time better. Like I once planned a scavenger hunt in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and asked it for 20 locations of historical or scenic significance, give me riddles, pictures, things to count, and GPS links. And it gave me the Google Map link. So I love utilizing it for that. I still had to do my part. I still had to make it fun and engaging, but all of the mundane data crunching, right? The searching was already done. It was so awesome.
Yeah. What I love about AI is that it gives you freedoms to make choices, right? So I don't care that it may have taken, if it took 10 minutes to do something, I would have done 3 hours. I mean, I love the fact it took 10 minutes instead of 3 hours, but it doesn't mean that I now am going to have 2 hours and 50 minutes that I'll do nothing in. It just means that I'm going to spend that time differently, but I could if I wanted to. So I have options where I may not have had options before. So for me, my favorite interaction is Carl, which is the Cohesive Artificial Response Leader, which is the first AI book bot of its kind.
Nice.
And Carl came about as a direct result of just having conversations. So one of our colleagues that we work with, Daryl Bruce, who is really what we refer to as an inventor and an AI expert. He was helping me with drtroy.com and to say, here, you can put a bot on your site and people can talk to you and they can ask information. And all of a sudden what was happening is, as we were having this discussion, is we were bringing a lot of things back from the internet that I didn't think was really true and right, and what I wanted to reflect from what I talk about from cohesion culture and what I talk about from leadership. And I said, well, can we control this? Can you define it? He said, oh yeah, we can put parameters on it and control it. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Oh, so our book, Becoming a Cohesive Leader, The Power-Up Guide to Grow, Develop, and Advance Your Career. So what if I created a book bot that actually only responded to the information in the book that was contained and controlled within our teaching of what we wanted, to help guide people through the book, saying like, I remember reading that. So Carl, where did I read that? And then Carl tells you where you read it without you having to try to figure out some other search in doing it. Or I want to explore a little bit more. And so Carl has these capabilities to learn and grow from the questions that you ask and the information that we provide Carl. So Carl has been like oh my gosh, what a game changer for the book and game changer for the way individuals buying our book now can interact with us, which was not really ever available before.
Well, and it actually solves the problem that people say is the reason they don't read books.
Right.
Time, or I don't retain that knowledge, right? Well, you could look at the table of contents, just ask a question, and it pulls up that response right then and there. So it really helps solve that need or problem.
Yeah, to do that.
Well, and think about how it gets us to retool what we're doing, right? It gets us to think about, hey, if I had, let's just think about this as reimagining educational engagement, right? I want content, but I want it when I need it and how it's going to solve the problem I have. Wow, that is so powerful, because then I can get to solution so much faster, which is what I love. And all of that information that we want to search and all those actions we want to take, that sits on a complete bed of data. And that's the stuff that we want to be able to get available to, get the power to. That's where it just gets me so excited about what the future's like with what we can do with these very cool tools.
Well, thank you for that great intro. I know we can probably go for hours on that one. So now we're going to transition. Anne, we want to get to know you. We want to know who you are. What is the I, your identity, behavior, character traits, what you're known for, what your passions are, and then also who you are, big R, roles you've had, hats you wear, things like that. So who you are and who you are.
Great. Well, this is cool. I kind of feel like we're having like a serious like coffee/happy hour moment. I love it. Okay. So when I think about who I am exceptionally curious. I have a thirst for knowledge and interest that has served me so well to constantly be understanding what's going on and where I'm going. It's helped me do a lot of cool things, like I talked about, climbing tall mountains, running my first marathon in a pandemic, a bunch of really cool, interesting experiences. Um, when I think about how the roles that I've had, I have been so fortunate to be in one industry the majority of my professional life, and that is in credit unions. And I started off actually working at a data provider. It was called a marketing customer information file provider, so MCIF. I worked for them and then also spent some time then working with credit unions. I spent over, oh my goodness, 17 years working in the credit union C-suite in a variety of different roles, many of them in the marketing function where there's a lot of gorgeous data, but then also spending time working for some of our large data providers, such as Fiserv and CUNY Mutual had launched out a product that was a sort of a data warehouse, data architecture piece, and then also in consulting, which has led me into kind of what I do now, which I am the founder of a data activation consultancy where we help credit unions understand not only all that gorgeous data they have, but get educated on it, and then also to be able to take action on it. So it's kind of a really cool, crazy piece that I've managed to be in the different spheres of retail banking, if you will, as well as data, as well as knowledge, as well as strategy. Oh, there's a couple other steps along the way, such as getting an MBA and having all sorts of cool thought leadership that's been at international summits and, publishing a book. But that's kind of it.
I think it's fair to say that you help people thrive.
It is absolutely fair to say that I help organizations and people thrive, and it is what I love to do.
Why do you think I would say that? Because
Me-
that's the name of your business.
Correct. It is called Thrive, and that is exactly what. And then if you're interesting, think about how you're like, how do I thrive? I thrive because I either have knowledge or I get empowerment. And clearly, what we're trying to do with Thrive is help you drive really important things like growth and efficiency, also intelligence and empowerment. Four big,
Yes.
huge.
And we appreciate that. And thanks for sharing all of that. And we're going to now move to, here's the essence of the Uh-Oh podcast. It's an opportunity for you to share some real-time story with us of a situation or experience that you had that didn't go quite exactly the way you thought it would go. And our listeners are individuals who might be, maybe they're frustrated or they're dissatisfied with their current employer because they're not getting the training and development they need. Maybe they're being passed over for a promotion. So our goal is to take your situation and relate it to leadership, to relate it to the principles that will help them better understand how they can develop within their own, within their own jobs. And they don't have to spend any money. The podcast gives them some information to help them with that. So with that being said, what is the Uh-Oh experience you would like to share with us today?
Well, goodness. Let me kind of, if I may, weave a story because I kind of want to leave the headline a little bit towards the end there.
Okay.
Imagine, if you will, that you have created either your own organization or your own thing, and somebody says, I want to hire you to do just what you've been doing. Many of us find ourselves in those cool opportunities, right? Or maybe we're in an organization where we get elevated to do just this thing, right? In my case, I was actually acquired, like the Thrive company was acquired to bring into a large technology company to say, hey, create what you're doing. And you're excited. You get budgets. You get to hire people. You know that you have 3 years and you're going to be, that's the first contract. And you're exciting that this is now the next level of what you're going to do. So you go off and you hire all the right people. You have all of the amazing resources and you have this team and you're doing what you've been wanting to do. And then you get the call and it is, hey, I'm a manager and I'm your new manager. I've only been your manager for about 6 months. And I'd like for you to have a conversation with HR. And you go, well, that's cool. Okay, what? Sure. And in that meeting, and it's a very brief meeting, you're told that you're no longer needed and your department is gone and you're going to be part of a massive layoff. The layoffs are so important because they're happening and they're so difficult because they happen so quickly many times. Many times in my case, I was a little bit caught off guard. The other part was I had built this beautiful team that I felt so passionate about. I had 10 people that I had to go lay off in 4 days. And I had to hold that knowledge to myself for 4 days. And I just was beyond myself. It felt like I'd been run over by a truck. It felt like I had to like break up my entire family. I felt like I had just pulled everybody's financial rugs from underneath their feet. It was horrible. And all of those people that have either been part of a layoff or have to lay people off and are getting laid off themselves, it's one of those things where it's so hard to digest because you go, well, what could have the what ifs? You stuff yourself into the what ifs. What have I done? What have I done? And then you realize at the end of the day that this is a business decision. And there may have been some things that you could have done that could have been different value expressions, or maybe there are other things. But at the end of the day, this is a financial reason, a business reason. And that's what it is. So the point of when things, and I'm going to just call them unexpected, although they're really not. There's a lot of pieces in there you learn later. But when you have unexpecteds, and we all will get them, we will all get them, it becomes a moment of not what I do as I get, let's just say, I fall down, or I'm sitting down, or maybe I'm just shoved down. It's how am I going to get back up? It's how am I going to get back up? How am I going to get myself back up and make sure that those 10 employees that I've cultured and nurtured are going to end where I can help them get back up? Then how do I step back and get back up? And one of the things that, you ask, and it's such a great moment because layoffs are so prevalent. And even if it is that maybe like what I see so much right now is where organizations are saying, I know you're at the senior level, but we're going to add another layer and you feel like you're getting demoted. It's like, how do I understand all this? So the things that I found really valuable is number one, you know what? Sometimes you just have to say it is what it is. And then you have to say, okay, what could I learn? What could I have done differently? And what could I learn? Well, there are some amazing things that happen when you lean into that learning space. Number one, you realize, oh, there's probably some good conversations and some good listening sessions that maybe I didn't quite listen well enough to. I also get to figure out, well, hey, what are the nuggets I get to take away? Well, the nuggets I get to take away are, oh my gosh, I got that opportunity to create what I wanted. And there was so many amazing learnings I did. It was about 2 years in a 3-year experience. The hiring, what we could accomplish. Oh my gosh, I got to take that away. My team, they were all wonderful and they had done amazing things. And it was great for me to be able to take that moment and be like, let me remind you of the amazing that you have. And here are some recommendations on where you can go and help them transition into their next. But one of the most interesting things was I gave myself the gift of time, which I was really very, very fortunate to have to sit back and really give myself the space to not have to jump into something right away and figure out what it was. And one of the things that was so neat was I said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to figure out that this is the time that I go do that bucket list thing, like climb a mountain. And I gave myself the gift of 12 weeks to say, well, go climb that mountain. And while that mountain was both literal, physical, and all of those cool things that you do when you get to figure out where you are and what you want to do, it also gave me my next, which was figuring out that book. One of the things that I realized was there's a whole education vertical in what I do that hadn't actually been explored. And it wasn't that I sat down and said, I'm going to write a book. It was, what would be all the things that everybody asks me about data that would be together? And all of a sudden it became chapter 1, chapter 2, 7 chapters later, there was all the answers that I wanted to give people. Well, if I'm going to write the book, should I teach the class? Well, if I'm going to teach the class, then shouldn't I get that class certified? And I'm going to teach that class. Well, then shouldn't I build a learning platform? And
Right.
now I have a vertical.
Yes. Okay. So I love the background to the story. I love storytelling. It's also a great way for us to learn. So learning from that. So it sounds like the experience for you was something that kind of, again, happened to you, right? So this was the to you, right? Because you weren't expecting it. So this is like, here I am now without a job. And
Really, without a job, it was like I had already had this vision of what I could do with this team. So it felt like a vision had gone. And then it felt like the responsibility of this team that I had to let go as well. So it felt like a lot of different daggers all coming in that I thought I should have been able to see. So that was my
So,
and now it's 4 days.
and looking back on it, would you be able to identify one item that you felt that you might have played into for the moment? Is there at least one thing that you may have either played into or that maybe you should have seen coming? Is there anything like that that you could share?
100%.
Just one item.
100%. And that was one of the things, wherever you are in whatever role you have, one of the things you have to do is understand how your effort ties into the strategic plan, how you provide value. You've got to be able to communicate that, and clearly, crisply, and to a variety of audiences. And I wish I could have done that differently.
Okay, great. So that's an additional great nugget. So we got a nugget on top of a nugget here with what you already shared, right, with that. So, part of this whole concept around cohesion culture, cohesive leader, it's looking at those three strategic elements of cohesion. It's about our sense of belonging, where we feel included. Value is our meaningful work. And then mutual commitment is collaboration through the air of need and trust. So this thing about meaningful work, like value, like being able to explain not only your value. I think that oftentimes we get passed over for promotions within an organization because people don't know our value. We think they know our value, but we've not done enough of a job to be able to present it. And there's a difference between we get the band out there and go, hey, look at me, look at the value I bring to the organization, versus the line you can walk that actually helps reinforce that by being helpful to people. So I found that my success in my career has always been, I've had great relationships with my bosses. Again, fortunately, versus your story, I survived many layoffs. I think some of that is because I may have done what you said. I didn't think about it exactly like that until you said it just now. But I've always been the person who said, hey, what can I help you with? What can you do? Hey, where can I be a part of it? And trying to not only include myself, but create the value that I might have for them, that they will want to collaborate with me. They'll want to keep me to be a part of that group and to grow.
This situation makes me think of the iconic workplace movie Office Space. To date ourselves, and if you haven't seen it, folks, it's a raunchy comedy, but it's so can be what many people's experiences are. But I just remember being in front of the Bobs, and the one guy had to explain what is it that you actually do here, and he takes the instructions from the designers and he takes it to the architect, to the engineers. So he takes the printout to them, and it's like, well, why can't you do that? Why can't they do that? It's like, because I have people skills and I'm needed. And so it's just a fun scenario. I mean, it's a very animated version of that, but he was trying to justify, but in that scenario, he's like, all he did was move a piece of paper.
Well, you know what is interesting about what you both said is so many times we're hired, or your role or your perceived role is to do X. And so you're really excited about X. And what you don't realize is X is important, but X's value may not be shared to you, right? Like in the case of the Bobs, it was, I've got the people skills to do the high translation between this to that, right? Not just moving the piece of paper. And in the situation like you're talking about, is many times if your value is really clear and your chain of command or however it is great, where they say, you need to do this and here's your scorecard, that's crystal. But so many of us do not get, I have this crystal scorecard. It is, yes, keep doing your thing. And so you have to learn how to have those cool conversations where you're like, how am I providing value to the organization? How is this moving whatever our strategic piece of cheese is? And those are things where I think some of us are scared to get those answers, where we're like, well, what if I'm not doing it? Well, that's a cool opportunity to be like, how do I make sure that
you can only fix it once you know about it. If you don't
Right.
know about it, you can't fix it.
Right.
Which also leads me, gosh, you helped me really think through some things that I haven't thought about before or for a while. And that is also like asking people, what else do you need from me so that you can do what your job? And I remember, like with the leaders who reported to me, I would often periodically just call them up out of the blue and say, do I owe you anything? Is there something that you need from me so that you can keep doing what the project is, or whatever was going on? And I think now that maybe that was so much more helpful than I actually realized it was at the time. And that's a nice little nugget for these individuals who feel like they're being passed over. Like, you don't have to spend a lot of money to be trained, but there are just some nuances, some things that you need to be thinking of to prepare your mind to think about your values and how you speak to others and what you say. I think all of that
It's
matters.
well, it's the intentionality of leadership. You have to intentionally spend that time, invest that time, and you can use technology to help you with that. You can make a reminder in your calendar app that does every once a month, once every other week, says check in on the team and has their names. And so like you can that doesn't have to be taking gray matter of yours up, but you just do that and then you can check in, because that's the intention, that's the humanity part that will be done, will be in genuine. Hey, I know I saw you X, Y, and Z ago about this, but I forgot to ask about this. Now, you could have that to be auto scripted and generated now, and plenty of people do, but I think a lot of folks can see through the automated side of things when it's actually genuine.
And Ben-Jamin, what you were talking about there, and I know Anne does this as well, it's called calendar blocking.
Yep.
And it's a great technique where you can use technology to help you remember to do things. And it's not a bad thing. I work from a list all the time. I can work from a paper list or a digital list. And I love having reminders on my calendar. I live and almost die by my calendar, that if it's not on the calendar, I may forget that I need to be doing it. And it's not because I am the absent-minded professor. Okay, I could be from time to time. But it's just that there are so many things happening, the complexities of it, the detail, the amount of detail that one has to remember. Why not rely on something that can help you?
Well, let me bring in IA, good Lord, AI. Whoo, goodness, sorry about that. Let's bring AI back into this. There are some amazing tools out there where literally you can be capturing your weeklies, when you have your weeklies with somebody, and also when you're having your monthlies, that say, what are we working on? And it will listen and say, hey, I'm hearing this is a training opportunity. I'm hearing this is a piece. So now it's almost kind of like you have this amazing resource listening to you as you're having these great conversations with your team members, who can say, make sure you're tracking on this, or, hey, I heard a dashboard, or, hey. And there was an amazing case study where and this was a credit union HR professional, where they did this and then be able to understand what are the threads throughout the organization that would help prove, in this case, I'm going to be very specific about training, that we can help build up a training platform, because I'm hearing these different things going out throughout the organization. That means we should be building this training. And then think about how you then come back and go, is this what I think? Let me test it with this group. It comes back. And now you have measurement metrics that say, yes, this is where we should be going. This was powerful. And that's where I think, to your point of bringing in the technology, it is great to be able to say, hey, we've had our weeklies, we've had our monthlies. When we get to our quarterlies, we can really see what we've accomplished, as well as maybe even jump-started some other knowledge that maybe we thought would have to be something we would have to bring up to somebody else, but maybe was presented to us.
And I love how you tied in what we refer to as useful practices. This is the section of the Cohesive Leader program that's designed for individuals who have the responsibility of being leaders of people. So although we're trying to make sure that individuals that are reporting to people of leadership can be developed as well, it's always mindful to know how the leader of people can also use tools and technology and things to advance what they're doing.
Well, and think about the metrics that, specifically, if you're somebody who maybe feels like they've either been passed over, or they're concerned about their value within the organization. One of the easiest way to ask a question is to ask your person higher up, how do we measure success? And how do you measure my success or my team's success? And you want that open-ended question to give you as much as you want to be like, what are those things I need to be coming back on?
Yeah. So in a scenario where a lot of circumstances that you were not aware of led to the outplacement situation, but we did cover that you've learned that you can make your to actually quote Dr. Troy's mother Fanny when he asked about can he toot his own horn, and she's like, you can toot it, just don't lay on it, right? So and that's a paraphrase, but because if others aren't saying anything, you can do a little bit yourself. What steps have you taken to avoid that type of situation in the future? And okay, you are now self-employed, you have a business. That could be one of your steps, and that's a possibility. If you were still to remain employed, what would you do differently as well?
Well, I'm going to tie those two together, because one of the things that as I do as a founder of a company is I need to constantly explain the value of what we deliver, right? Whether it's in education, whether you're taking a class and you're going to get a proficiency, I have to explain that value and I have to be crisp about that, right? Or maybe it is, hey, I am trying to figure out what AI tool I need and what data I need. Well, you need to understand how I'm going to provide value to that. And I've got to really do a good job. And this is something I'm really glad that I had that painful moment to learn about it, to be able to say, hey, you've got to drive this back up, right? I've got to be able to say to you, if we have whatever engagement, you're going to get growth, efficiency, intelligence, and empowerment. And I've got to have the data, no pun intended, but slightly intended, to be able to prove it. That crystallization and that clarity of delivering value and how I understand the key target and the key audience needs value delivered, and those making sure, and that's a constant conversation of where are you and what are your success metrics, and making sure that I'm aligning to that. That's a constant ongoing turn, but that was really powerful. And once I was able to, and that takes iterations. It's not like you just walk out one day and you're like, woohoo, here's my scorecard. You get it? It's storytelling, it's proof points, it's case studies, it's all this beautiful learnings that you get. And sometimes, and this is the thing I love, every time I'm talking to a different client, it's going to be a different success metric. I've got to have the tools in my toolbox to be able to understand which one it is. So I've got to be able to do those beautiful probing questions to get clarity. And then I have to be able to deliver if I can, which I hope I can, and then be able to make sure that I confirm that I have delivered what I need to do. All of that is because of this experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's about being aware. So all of those particular things that you talked about is making sure that an individual has their eyes opened, is aware of their surroundings, of what is happening. It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm a big fan of reality TV. So I know by the time this podcast is aired, Big Brother will still be on TV. But it's like there's a few things that happen through the show, some mantras in the show that are really helpful in life. And one of them is prepare for the unexpected, that the unexpected is going to happen. So don't try to be caught too far off guard. The other thing is when you become too comfortable, that's usually when something happens. And obviously never put yourself up as a pawn on the block, because you'll be the one going home. So if you think about it, some of that translates to everyday life and to what we do. So learn from people around us, learn from the experiences that they have, try to figure out how those experiences can relate to you. And when you're not sure, ask very specific questions. So that's really kind of where we get to. So, Anne, we want to know, as we're wrapping up today, where will people get in contact with you? All this great information that you have, things that you're doing with your company, but just individuals who want to reach out to you, how would they do that? Excellent.
A couple of things. First of all, please visit our website at AnneLeggThrive.com. And let me spell that for you. AnneLeggThrive.com. But also reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Anne at AnneLeggThrive.com. And that is ANNE. Super easy to remember this. The E is English, which is I am half English. And that is ANNE at ANNELEGG Thrive, THRIV.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn too. Love to talk to my friends on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, it's great. And thank you so much for that. And, we like to let our listeners know that they can interact with Ben-Jamin and myself at info@cohesionculture.net.
Yep. Too many websites to list.
That's okay. Yeah. It's good. So,
all right. Last question, going back to connection. Now we started off with AI, excitement tools and all that. Now the question is, what element of AI scares you the most?
I want to say it is the in AI, there is so much conversation about becoming a sentient being, right? Independently thinking. And everybody goes to their freakiest sci-fi movie about that. I think what's interesting is the part that freaks me out the most is knowing that, shall we say, there are bad actors in the world. No shock there. And that they too will have this power. And it is an incredibly powerful power. And it does scare me to think potentially what bad actors could do with it. I mean, remember, every action has a reaction, and I like to think of the positive reaction, so that if there's every bad actor, I know that there are entities working on how to counter bad actors, as we do every day. But this is a very, very powerful tool that can think not only in itself, but also can mimic and mirage and camouflage.
Wow. My thought on that is the idea of the open system of it, and the systems that are being trained by folks with agendas and things like that. And my fear is the very quick reliance on any AI's answer.
Right. People check your
yeah, trust but verify. And we're like, when you do, one thing is if you Google search it, normally it's not the best answer. It's the best SEO'd answer, right? It's the one that someone manipulated the system to get to the top, and now people take that as gospel. But the idea is, in general, you want to be a 5th page of Google person in a 1st page world, right? To get that information. And the same idea with AI, it's I think the prompting is what matters most. How do you get to that point where you're asking the right questions to get the right answers, and not automatically agree or take the first answer? And like, even now with the generative AI within Google or whatever, like, that's still giving a link to something that it found. So I'm scared as a population that we automatically say this is correct or right.
Right.
You mean everything on the internet is not truthful?
That's what I'm saying.
So the AI could be learning from someone who is teaching them something that's not really accurate or correct.
That is a big rabbit hole we can go down of why certain people left certain positions.
Yes.
Let's bring in the reins for a minute. One of the coolest things you can do when you're working with an AI tool is, let's say you do get some cool thing. You're like, that sounds really interesting. Like, I'd love to pursue that. Go back and ask it, hey, show me your sources. It will show you its sources. And those links are a hoot. You're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily hold that particular website, but okay, so now you told me where your sources are. I mean, the ones that they share. And to your point, it allows you to go, why don't I go back and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Can you show me? In my case, I'm always looking for the literature. Can you show me the scientific literature? Can you show me this structure? I'd like to see that. So I can, as you said, trust and verify.
It's really great. Here we are at the end of the podcast, actually providing yet another critical piece of information. And that is, really make sure you're checking out your source before you start telling people the information. I cannot even begin to count the number of times that people have told me something that they have read on the internet that wasn't verified or wasn't exactly accurate, and to really just make sure you have your sources. And I think for me, the thing that scares me the most about AI is the part of where we will not find a way to allow us to coexist. It would either be humans or AI. Like, we're not going to have a middle ground. And I really believe that there can be a middle ground if I remember what my responsibility is, what my role is, if I remember me being human. And to try to teach a machine to be human, I think is not necessarily the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal might be that the machine wants to be human. That's okay. As a matter of fact, I attended a conference one time where the response was, with the AI did all this research on being a human and gave lots of data, lots of information back on being a human. And then the final question to the AI is, what do you most seek to be? And the response was human. So it's not like it's not a great thing to be attainable. I think it's good to be human, but to allow a mechanism to think that it's going to have emotions, feelings that we have as humans that come from our innate experiences and the way we are designed by the touch and the smell and all of those things coming together. It doesn't seem like that's, it's not going to be possible. And then we make a choice not to use it because it can't do that. I think we need to find a way for them to coexist together. And it's really why I spent a lot of time on the subject on how technology can humanize culture, being able to find ways for these two elements to coexist in a way that can help organizations really have the culture they want, but use the tools and the techniques that can help them get there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Our time is up, but we have one last thought to leave our listeners with.
Yes, we like this, our little mantra, because it's all about learning and developing and growing and maturing and advancing. And that is, you don't have to know everything.
You just need to be teachable.